There's no single shots. There's no double tap. If I shoot you, I'm going to shoot you. I grabbed the back of his harness with my left hand and put a half a magazine into that guy. You made contact with 500. You know, it's like kicking the top off of an anthill. They would take us into Laos or wherever, set us down, put the NVA all around, just hundreds and hundreds of them all around us, with us in the middle, and then they'd say, go. Never, ever shoot an NVA less than 3 or 4 times.
Let's get into your first mission.
Okay. We had kind of started it before where they assigned me right off the bat. So even the SOG rule was, even if you come in as an officer like I did, when you went to a team, you could not go as the team leader. You had to go out as an assistant team leader for a certain number of missions until the team leader that was vetting you said, you know, this guy's ready to lead a team. So I went out with team RT Alabama to start with, to learn really what it was like and get vetted, because it's just a river, but there was something about when you cross that river into that other country, everything was different. I mean, you didn't make contact with 20 or 30 guys and have a gun battle. You made contact with 500. You know, it was like kicking the top off of an anthill. I mean, they would just swarm. Once they figured out where you were, they were coming from everywhere to try to get you. And the other thing, it was kind of reminds me of jiu-jitsu, in that with jiu-jitsu, you and your opponent kind of lay down in the floor and you get your best hold on each other, and then they say go, and you try to fight your way out of it. With us, they would take us into Laos or wherever, set us down, put the NVA all around, just hundreds and hundreds of them all around us, with us in the middle, and then they'd say, go. Go accomplish your mission, and then see if you can get out. So you started off surrounded with every mission.
Sheesh.
And just, there are just so many of them when you did. And then I worked mostly up north with Laos, you know, North Vietnam. The terrain up there is very mountainous, and double, triple canopy jungle, thick vegetation. I mean, most of the time when I made contact, you would, you know, this close to me. I mean, 10 meters, maybe 15 meters. That's when we made contact, and I probably couldn't see the other 20 people who were with you because they were standing a couple meters farther back in the vegetation. I could hear the gunshots. I could see the bushes moving as you know the blast came and things like that. So a lot of times I was shooting at just movement, shooting at sound, shooting at the one or two that I could see, and bullets were just coming from everywhere. You were never shooting at one. You might think you're shooting at one person, but there's 30 or 40 shooting back at you. And it was, when you made contact in Vietnam, which we'd go do a lot just for practice so you can have a live shoot back target. You know, you run up on 5 or 10 guys and have a gunfight. But when 5 or 10 turns into 100, 200, and there are more coming, it becomes difficult. So the hardest or the easiest thing is to get inserted. And sometimes that's a real problem, but still, getting inserted seems to be the easiest part. Accomplishing the mission becomes really difficult. Getting out becomes almost impossible. And, you know, it's like that almost every mission. And you get in, trying to accomplish the mission with everything going on, but then how do you get out? I mean, it can go on for hours and hours and hours trying to get out because you can't get the fire suppressed enough to get a helicopter in. And I mentioned Prairie Fire emergency earlier. If we were about to be overrun, if I call on the radio and declare Prairie Fire emergency, everything within range that has ordnance is getting diverted to me to try to help get me out. So all of a sudden, I mean, there were times when I'd have 14 gunships in orbit waiting their turn to come in, 5 or 6 F-4 Phantoms in orbit ready to come in. Some, other types of aircraft all in orbit just waiting their turn to come in and expend their ordnance on the bad guys so I could try to get out. So anyway.
What was it like when you show up as an officer to the most elite unit at the time, and they want you to lead one? I mean, how are you received by those guys? Young guy, 21 years old, only been to the schools, qualified SF, qualified Ranger, but, even in today, that doesn't mean much when you show up to the team. I can't imagine what the reception's like for a junior officer to show up at a team like that, of those type of men to be led.
John Meyer might have told you what the perception was.
He did.
Yeah. He told me one time that he said, you were one of the few officers that actually wanted to go out and was not afraid to go out and could perform when you were out there. And he said, that made you different than most of the officers. And most officers, they went out a few times and they didn't go back out again. They found another job. But they're enlisted NCOs did that too. I'm telling you, when you go over there and experience what it's like, you have to think long and hard before you say, I'm ready to go back. Because it was just so different when you went out there. And, I thought I was given a fair chance. Sergeant Gentry Deck, he didn't seem to have any qualms. He just said, we'll see what you can do. It's my team, and, I'll tell you what I want you to do, and you do it. And, I was okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And, the guys in, when you went into the lounge, the club, you could sit with more senior guys there, people with more experience, and, they would chat with you. And I think first or second day I was there, this E7 was talking to me. He came over and met me, and we started talking. And at one point he said, let me tell you something, Lieutenant. Never, ever shoot an NVA less than 3 or 4 times. Every time you shoot one, you shoot them 3 or 4 times. If they twitch, you shoot them 3 or 4 more times. Don't ever assume that you've shot somebody and they're dead, because we've had a lot of SOG people killed, shot in the back because they walked past the NVA that they had shot and thought was dead.
Damn.
And he said, you make sure you do the job the first time. And, that was a rule I adopted. There's no single shots. There's no double tap. If I shoot you, I'm going to shoot you. You're going to get hit a lot of times. And most of the time I shot short bursts on automatic. I'd shoot, 3 or 4 round bursts, because I want to make sure I hit you. I want to make sure you're going down. And, if if you don't go down fast enough, I'm going to hit you with 3 or 4 more rounds. And, you know, that was one of the reasons I carried a lot of ammunition.
You know what everybody dreads? The inbox. I've gone through thousands and thousands of emails, and I hear you loud and clear. So we're making it official. The Vigilance Elite store is fully stocked. We're dropping new gear more often. Some limited edition, some permanent staples. We've got hats, tees, and even Vigilance Elite tumblers. And yes, before you ask, I'm still booze-free. It's been 3.5 years. Relax. It's just water. If you were one of those emails, consider this your green light. Head over to ShawnRyanShow.com and stock up.
Deck was very open to having me on there, particularly after, you know, we had the first mission. We'd go out, we're doing a last light insertion, and we were going to go do a wiretap once we got on the ground. So we go out, it's starting to get dark. We circle around and we come in on our run toward the LZ. You know, Deck gave a thumbs up. That means get out on the skids, 30 seconds out. I climbed out on the skids. The other American climbed out on my side with me. And the door gunners right next to me, we were on a Huey. And we're coming in really low, and we're just going across the tree. I mean, the skids are almost dragging into the top of the canopy. And we're going slow, and I was thinking an NVA could knock me off of the skid with a rock. I mean, we're just barely moving. I'm exposed to the world standing out here. And wow, there's a little village over there. It looks like 6 or 7 hooches in a little village. That wasn't in our briefing. There was nothing said about a village being that close to where we were going in. So we come on up, and they had blown a hole in the canopy, and it was just barely big enough for the chopper to just set straight down in. So we're settling down in there, and I'm scanning, the tree line, and still thinking, I can, a setting duck out here. And we get down, it looks like as far as we're going to be able to go. We're still about 6 feet from the bottom of the bomb crater. And I'm thinking, I got to jump off the skid down in this thing with 80 pounds of gear on. I'm going to break both legs, when I hit down there. And while I'm having that thought, it's time to suck it up and just jump. So, I bent my knees so I could, kind of hop off. And as I bent down, this guy, NVA, pops up right there 10 feet away from me, in the bomb crater, AK-47. Holy cow. So instead of jumping in, I straightened my legs up and hopped back up on the edge of the floor of the aircraft. As I do that, he pulls the trigger on the AK. My legs moved just in time. They went right across in front of me and hit the American that was on the other side of me. They hit his legs and took him out from under him. He started to fall. I grabbed the back of his harness with my left hand. I put a half a magazine into that guy. I drug him back up into the aircraft. He's yelling and hollering, about his legs. Blood's going everywhere. The 2 Indige behind me, both open fire, going out of the helicopter, 1 on each side of me. And I'm getting powder burns from their muzzle flashes, going death as that's happening. And, the door gunners opened up, and it's just unbelievable the number of bullets that all of a sudden are coming, crisscrossing inside the aircraft, hitting the aircraft. You can hear the metal clangs as they hit. I see another one. I finish off my magazine on him. Now I've got to reload, and that's when I discovered what stress does to your fine motor coordination. So I reached to try to get a magazine out of my pouch. My hand is just soaked with the blood that's squirting out of his leg. I'm trying to get the magazine out. I couldn't get it, and it was stuck in there. My hand was slick. I finally got it out. But when I went to put it in, my hand was shaking so much I couldn't get it in the magazine weld at first. I finally got it in there so I could start returning fire. The next one, came right out of the pouch. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it went in a lot easier. But I had never experienced that level of fear before. I mean,
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.